Using urban pollinator gardens as a tool for environmental education. This research project aims to address one of the most urgent questions of today. How do we restore urban environments and influence regenerative thinking? As urban areas expand and consumption continues to rise, we are faced with an increasing amount of environmental challenges, one of which is the drastic decline in pollinators. In this presentation, I will discuss the urgency of this decline and define the source of this problem as urban development and a lack of connection with our environment. As a solution to this, I used GIS to find optimal locations for pollinator gardens and explored the ways these gardens can be used as tools for community engagement and environmental education. Additionally, I'm going to discuss ways to fund these programs at both a local and national scale. There are countless studies linking the widespread loss of biodiversity with environmental degradation and habitat fragmentation. In the New York Times article, "The Insect Apocalypse is Here," the rapid loss of biodiversity is referred to as the sixth extinction. Although it is difficult to collect data on pollinators and other insects, this article explores several studies from entomologists around the world who have discovered this decline through extensive data collection and research. Currently, conservation is focused on the management of endangered species and maintaining protected land. However, this only reaffirms the idea that we are disconnected from the bigger picture. In order to transform the way we think about environmental problems, there needs to be a shift in consumerist culture and the way we relate to our environment. One way to do this is by connecting people, especially children, back to nature in order to cultivate both a deeper sense of self and place within a community. When conducting my GIS research on potential locations for these gardens, I wanted to find places that benefited both pollinators and people. The study area for this research is within the Twin Cities metro area. The variables I chose to incorporate are the following. After choosing which variables to incorporate into my research, I added each of those map layers into my model. However, because each layer is a vector of data, I had to use the raster calculator tool in order to reclassify the values. Essentially, this tool allows you to set a common scale so you can add those map layers together. This is the map for percent youth in the metro area. After bringing in the layer, I used the feature to raster tool in order to reclassify the value into a common scale. Notice the map did not change after standardizing the value. The scale of the data simply shifted so that you can add additional layers. These are the individual map layers or variables within my research. This map basically shows that the temperature in urban areas is typically higher than temperatures outside the city. Typically, bees like warmer areas, but also these gardens could be used for cooling of urban heat islands. The other layer is meant to target areas that are close to existing bee habitat. This is the standardized distance to habitat layer. Existing bee habitat is in red, and the further you get from those habitats, the less likely you are to find bees. Typically, habitat that is closest to existing habitat is usually the most effective. When it comes to what's good for the people, I applied an environmental justice lens to my research and thought about targeting areas that were low income and didn't have as much access to green space. I also wanted to target areas that have a high youth population within their community, especially because when youth are more exposed to green space, it has been consistently shown that they perform better academically, socially, and it even influences more sustainable behavior in a sense that it is connecting students back with nature. The final product is this map of the 7-county metro that shows optimal locations for pollinator habitat in red. Again, these are places that are hot and close to existing bee habitat, but it also targets areas that are low income, have a high youth population, and less access to green space than other communities. After creating this map, I investigated 2 hotspot locations, one in Hamden Park, St. Paul, and the other in Minnehaha Creek Park in South Minneapolis. I intentionally sought out locations that were both public spaces and near elementary schools to increase accessibility to these gardens. Consumption in urban areas continues to rise because we are disconnected with where our resources come from, like food and electricity. We simply pay our electric bills, buy our foods from the store, drive our cars, and run our water without thinking about how much we're consuming, wasting, recycling, and most importantly, connecting with our local and global environment. These pollinator gardens present the perfect opportunity for communities to become engaged with design, planting, tending, and harvesting. Designing these gardens requires understanding of the local ecology, knowledge of native plants, how to work with the landscape, and organizing a learning space that incorporates all elements of design. They are tools to engage people with the environment and inspire questions about becoming a steward of nature. Finding funding for these programs and projects first and foremost requires networking within the community, starting with local organizations that share the same mission and vision, and collaborating to create something that not only meets the needs of the community, but incorporates them into that process. Engaging schools like Northrop Environmental Learning Center near Minnehaha Creek and creating a network of volunteers within the community is only the beginning phase of this process. At the national scale, there is a plethora of grant resources available for funding for these projects. Connecting with these resources helps to build both local and global community. Sustaining urban areas is a social process as well as a technical problem. We need to shape our social and political environments around these challenges. With urban growth, there is an increasing disconnection from nature, which leads to mindless consumption. Habitat fragmentation is a result of this, leading to the drastic decline of pollinators. Community-focused, environmental learning programs are a solution to this. Thank you.